In the world of sports, as we've just hinted, we're set to bring you a one-on-one conversation with the Wiper Democratic Movement leader, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, on a raft of issues that have played out in the year 2024. A lot of things have played out politically, talking about the Gen Z protests held mid this year that pushed cabinet to be changed. Equally, the reconstitution of IEBC that has been a sore issue in the country, bearing in mind that we're bordering on a constitutional crisis. So much to talk about. So there goes the interview. We'll leave you with it. Enjoy. Greetings. We're set to have a conversation with the Wiper Democratic Movement party leader, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, on a raft of issues that have played out in the political space in the year 2024. If you'd like to put it that way, a reflective conversation on the highs and lows of the year that has been. Your Excellency, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for welcoming us, and dare I say, happy birthday and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much. I join you in telling fellow Kenyans Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2025. Amazing.
Let's start with your reflection of the year 2024, because politically a lot has played out, giving truth to the adage that a day in politics is a lifetime. So what's the state of the nation from where you sit?
In fact, Jesse, it was actually Churchill, the wartime Second World War Prime Minister of Britain, Churchill, very famous, who also famously said that a day in politics is a very long time. And I can tell you a week is very long. But that notwithstanding, 2024 has been a very critical year in the political history of Kenya. And I stress political history, and in the democratization process of our country. And in fact, in terms of putting into effect the provisions and the expectations of Constitution 2010, which is now our guiding document. Never mind the fact that those wielding instruments of power do not seem even to have read the Constitution properly. Because how on earth would anybody have thought of dealing with the Gen Zs the way they did on June the 25th? So I started by saying, redefining the political history of our country and deepening our democratic gains, which has also been very costly because we lost a lot of young people. We wanted to remind those in rulership, because they're not leaders, they are rulers. Okay, there's a difference in my view. That we have a constitution, and they said we have a country also to call our own. You guys are getting old, we want the future to be guaranteed. Therefore, we want transparency in the way you conduct public affairs. We also want to see adherence to the Constitution. Therefore, June 25th, when the National Assembly was breached by young Kenyans, we were just determined to serve a document to their legislators, because in terms of provisions of Article 37 of the Constitution, the right to picket, the right to demonstrate and peacefully, unarmed. I think that's the only proviso. And in this case, I think everybody knows that when the young Kenyans came out, they were not armed with stones. They were armed only with the national flag and a bottle of water and their telephones. You cannot say telephones are weapons of destruction, okay? And so, later on, the state, the rulers, brought in hired goons with permission to break people's property. Can you imagine a government telling people, go and break the shops, right? Steal as much as you can, do goonism, and assign it to the innocent young demonstrators. I think that lie was called out. And therefore, I stress, Jesse, the importance of what happened in 2024 on June 25th. I said it before, that in recognition of that fact, Going forward, I would propose that June 25th becomes a national day when we remember that Kenyans, young Kenyans came out and set the example, not just for themselves and their parents and relatives, but set an example for Africa and the world.
That's really proper, giving us a reflective analysis of the highs and lows of the year 2024. I'd like to bring your attention to the recent developments that have played out in the political space. Case in point, the appointment of former President Uhuru Kenyatta's men in the broad-based government. I'd like your reaction to this because you've been vocal castigating those who have joined the Kenya Kwanza government. And perhaps you can start by highlighting if you yourself have been approached by the current government to join the broad-based government, and equally, what exactly might you say to those who have joined the Kenya Kwanza government? Does it mean the end of Azimio as we know it?
Yeah, that's a mouthful, Jesse. First of all, what you're calling Uhuru's men, I don't know. Some of them were in his cabinet, right? But their political orientation was not Jubilee. And I don't want to go into details. I think they do know. But I think these are people who are themselves desperate to join government, right? And they wanted to use Uhuru, President Uhuru, because if Uhuru wanted to say in the broad-based government, he would have written a detailed letter to Ruto. Say, I recommend the following people be appointed to your cabinet. So but the public perception, unfortunately, is what rules the Kenyan political airspace, okay? But be that as it may, I think Uhuru himself issued a statement on I think the whole thing is premised on the fact that there was a meeting where President Ruto went to meet President Uhuru Kenyatta on a courtesy call. So a courtesy call then was followed with these appointments. And since that time, I don't think we have had any comment from President Uhuru other than what he issued and what they discussed with William Ruto. Basically, the need to have a strong opposition, the need to ensure that this economy is functional. It's because as it is in the year, and even during the negotiations which I was privileged to lead partly on NADCO, we had evidence of 6,000 Kenyan companies migrating from Kenya to Tanzania and Uganda. Now, it makes this whole thing about getting Kenyans jobs abroad look ridiculous. Why don't you first of all safeguard the jobs which are in this country? But because of poor taxation policies, right, the result has been migration of capital. These things were canvassed, I understand, between Uhuru and Ruto, and the need to be tolerant. The need, I think, for William Ruto to stop being angry with everybody, angry with the citizens. I'm sure as an elder, President Uhuru, having been there before him, I'm sure they must have discussed things on how to carry yourself as a leader of a people. Not to shout down at them and say they are devils, they are peppers on a bib of pepper, things like those, okay? And yet I think the truth is always different. So those people have joined what you are calling broad-based. I've referred to it variously as, first of all, bread-based and even blood-based. Because how do you ride on the blood that a young Kenyans, call them Gen Zs, shed, saying they want transparency and they wanted this government out? And then, of course, the other very historic occurrence during the year is impeachment of the Deputy President, Rigathi. Yeah. Was that a priority? The priority should have been NADCO, National Dialogue Committee recommendations. Top of the agenda was the reestablishment of an IEBC. That is still pending. That's why some of us have come out and said this is a matter that must be dealt with right now. If not, Kenyans have the right to go back to the streets and demand justice. So those who joined, therefore, in my view, are they experts? I don't know. Now, that team which earlier joined the broad-based government, again, Raila was forced to say, okay, I allow them to go. You remember ODM kept on saying, these have gone on their own. I believe even these ones are not Jubilee people. Yeah? They have gone on their own. And you see, there's a law, Jesse, and I'll teach you a little law on that, in the law of jurisprudence, which stipulates that a man or a woman is taken to intend the natural consequences of their own actions. What do I mean by that? These people have joined Ruto's government, should therefore be prepared that the Kenyans will assume they have intended to be part of a group that is heavily weighing on Kenyans, overtaxing the economy of Kenyans. Any Kenyan today with a payslip is crying out, all because of the oppression, economic oppression of the ordinary Kenyan citizen. The high cost of living, which is what we dealt with under NADCO, and this administration said, no, that's our responsibility. Okay. And of course, integrity to political parties. They continue to do violence to for example, Jubilee. Yeah? And I don't know whether Uhuru and Ruto will have discussed the need to let Jubilee be, because there's state capture also coming in through there. I mean, okay, the executive captured National Assembly. That's a fact. They captured the National Assembly, or shall I say Parliament. Instead of seeing a complete example of separation of powers between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, an attempt, deliberate attempt by this administration to capture those institutions. Kenyans have seen this. That's why they have expressed frustrations.
Yes. So, long story short, all this political musical chairs, where does it leave Azimio? Have Raila and Uhuru formally exited Azimio La Umoja? What does a winning coalition for you look like, since the word out there is that you were banking on the support of the former president and the former prime minister going into the 2027 general election? So what does a winning...
I don't know about banking. Yeah. They write checkbooks or checklists. I think you bank on Kenyans, the good of Kenyans. Yeah. Of course, the two gentlemen you refer to are statesmen, and like Uhuru is a dear brother of mine. Raila Odinga knows he has gone to look for the AU chairmanship with my full support. And so, but they are human beings. And I think that what the Gen Zs have said is, look to us. That's why we have made it very clear. Those of us still remaining in the Azimio coalition, and I want to talk about that, believe that we will and will continue to be on the side of the people. That's why we have said we are the people's loyal opposition. We are very careful not to use Azimio, because I notice ODM have not been talking about Azimio themselves. They're trying to strengthen their positions. I think now that they are with one leg in government and one leg outside, they're a bit kind of convoluted, I can understand. And I can understand. But the year lying ahead and the days, the years ahead will make it very clear that we are the opposition. We do not intend to remain in opposition, of course. We will hold William Ruto's administration to full account. And we'll be making a statement to give that sense of direction. Whether Azimio will remain as Azimio is a matter that I think the principles, because even as we speak, I've not seen an exit statement by the chair of the council, who is President Uhuru, or the party leader of Azimio is my brother Raila Odinga. They haven't issued any statement. You remember when Raila was leaving for AU campaigns, he handed over to Governor Peter Nyang'nyong the leadership of ODM. He didn't hand over anybody leadership of Azimio. So we have to be realistic, and we are looking at the whole situation. My twin sister, Mother Karua, lost patience, and she said, I'm exiting, gave notice, she's exiting. I think that we may have to look at the whole situation, reevaluate, because the country needs political direction.
So what does a winning coalition look like for you? There's so much speculation outside there in terms of your partnership with the former Deputy President of the Republic, Rigathi Gachagua, who's found himself at loggerheads with the current administration, which he served not too long ago. Well, what does a winning coalition look like? Are you willing to work with like-minded and like-minded individuals for the betterment of the country?
Yeah, like-minded. This is taking shape. We have not had a formal engagement with former Deputy President Rigathi. If the need arises, we will make it clear to Kenyans. But remember, we have a leader of Democratic Action Party, former Minister for Defense, Constitutional Affairs, Eugene Wamalwa. And we have the Secretary General of Jubilee, Jeremiah Kioni. We have Babayao on board. And I can tell you a lot of other people, those interested in running for constituency seats, parliamentary seats, gubernatorial, senatorial, they are all coming on board. And so it's going to be exciting going forward. Because I see serious migration from Kenya Kwanza. Remember, they started by saying, everybody fold up and join Kenya Kwanza. And my friend, Madivi was the first one to fold. I think now, with a bit of hindsight, he may want to reconsider, and others. So now he's saying, ODM, come on board. It is like, when you're attending a crusade, Jesse, advertisement in Andikwa, then is a come one, come all. Everybody to join now. No. It doesn't make sense. We are focused.
Let's talk about an issue that is bedeviling Kenyans, because as a country, we're staring at a constitutional crisis when it comes to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission reconstitution, which has been delayed for quite some time. We're in the red when it comes to the delimitation of boundaries and other activities that should be done by the commission. There seems to be blame game going on between you and the government over the delay in reconstituting IEBC. The government spokesperson mentioned that Azimio Coalition should withdraw a court injunction blocking the formation of IEBC selection panel in order to allow the government to proceed with reconstituting the IEBC. You yourself has labeled, is it Augustus Chalo as a proxy? So I just want to get your take as you set the record straight. Away from the blame game, away from the proxies, do you have a hand in the delay in constituting IEBC?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All that needs to happen is William Ruto to show leadership. For example, when that government spokesman, I don't know whether it's my friend Maura. Yes. Yeah, Maura. He's a friend of mine, actually. When he talks like that, he doesn't have the facts. It is that Augustus Muli, who is a proxy, and I repeat, a proxy of Kenya Kwanza, who has actually filed an appeal because he lost the case. And again, to set the facts right, Azimio Coalition was given 2 slots. One went to ODM, Professor Olo Adams, and the other one to Koki Muli of Wiper, okay? And so, I mean, that's what it was. And look at the credentials of Koki Muli. And I want to know, of all the nominees, whether there's one with better credentials than Dr. Koki Muli in terms of conduct of elections. She has been in it. She's out there. And in fact, if people are thinking of a replacement for Chebukati, she could be even a candidate. But the point is that she won the court case because it was easy for Adams Olo to come through the parliamentary thing, and Wiper's candidate was supposed to convince the other 23 member parties of Azimio. And some of them are not even easily recognizable. And that is what the problem was.
So who exactly, sorry to cut you short, who exactly chose Augustus Chalo from the National Labour Party? Because according to him...
First of all, there's even a dispute about who is the leader of that party, the party that he seems to represent.
According to Augustus, he says he was elected by 16 political parties of the total 23 parties in the parliamentary liaison committee.
Okay, assume that was so. Yes. That is what was overturned by the court. because they didn't take into account the one to qualify must be coming from a party with a parliamentary presence. Augustine's party does not even have one MCA anywhere in this country, leave alone an MP. So that was found to be in violation of the law by the judge, and again, gender, the issue of gender, which is critical. And by the way, yesterday I received a report that the party which is very gender sensitive, which has done an gender audit in the country, and I challenge other political formations to come up, is only Wiper Democratic Movement, yeah, which is now compliant with the gender rule. So that is the truth about this matter. Today, if William Ruto's proxy can withdraw the appeal to the Court of Appeal, we will be on our way. Unfortunately, the stipulation is that the 9 names must be submitted, all right, as one list to President Ruto. Now, there was a window of a week before they organized to get Augustus Muli to go to appeal, within which Ruto could have actually appointed but they instead organized through a judge in Kiambu, all right, to issue injunctions. So the injunctions are by Kenya Kwanza.
So do you think
this is a state-sponsored litigation?
Well, where's the panacea here? An out-of-court settlement, can dialogue actually solve this impasse?
Yeah, of course not. Why not? Anything is, you can do it. Augustus Muli is a person I know. And by the way, he recorded me and gave it to Dennis Itumbi. Yeah? And then Dennis Itumbi sent it across. Can you imagine? That tells you whose project it truly is.
Okay. Let's shift focus to yet another issue, which I think is of utmost importance. What comes to mind when a judicial officer is on record questioning why the judicial filing system was inefficient during the Rigiji impeachment? What does that speak to from where you sit?
State capture of the judiciary.
And can a commission...
Interference. This is why we will have this commission, State Capture Commission. That's one of the things I'll be talking about. Okay. Because how can you interfere with the filing system of the judicial system? Please, independence of the judiciary. And I'm so happy. The country must remain grateful to Justice Lanaola for bringing this out. All right? And that is the truth. That is actually the truth. And I said here the other day, I said, of course now what Rigathi went through is what is now forming. The clouds are forming to throw out Chief Justice herself. But of course, the process is there, form a judicial commission, you do whatever. The point is give a dog a bad name and kill it.
Okay.
So this is it, continuing state capture. Instead of allowing independent institutions to operate, I think William Ruto's administration is really key. I don't know why they're afraid. And on the one hand, they say, oh, we want accountability, we want a functioning. Remember, I used to say we want a functioning official position. Hey, the opposite is, you preach water and drink heavy wine.
Your Excellency, you happened to become a legislator at the age of 32, after a by-election.
You've been doing your research.
Yeah, it seems so.
I've grown up in politics. Actually, I went in there as a Gen Z millennial.
Quite so.
So that's proper. And I want to mentor young people to take up that responsibility. That's why I've seen it all. Absolutely. Yeah, but continue.
Yes. So currently you're celebrating your 71st birthday, if I'm not wrong.
I don't count.
Oh, sorry. I let the cat out of the bag. Apologies for that. So I'd like to pose this question in such a manner that sort of speaks to your critics, because ever so often we hear of naysayers, as they're commonly referred to, tagging you with such names as, watermelon, indecisive. I'd like you to sort of coin a message in terms of your convincing capability. And sorry to say, you seem to be a gentleman in the marquee game of politics. So when it comes to your 2027 presidential bid, the big question would be sort of how to reinvent oneself in the eyes of the masses, cut an image of an effective leader, which you have been since the tender age of 32. Talk to us about your steps when it comes to
Jesse, I'm surprised when friends like the other day, we were in Limuru Church, and Babayo was trying to refer to my CV. No Kenyan gets it correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I've actually been through the run of the mill. When I lost an election, first of all, in 1983, and although I emerged the third at the constituency level, I learned a few lessons about it. So the pain of losing an election. And then winning during the subsequent by-election, midway, when my predecessor was killed by a policeman, okay? And having to take a decision whether you want really to go. And the struggle I had with convincing my late mother that she should allow me to run. So the pain of it all, the decision taking. And of course, my late father stood with me. We convinced my mom. And then, of course, after that, I was elected. I was a backbencher, full backbencher, for a full year. And then I was appointed assistant minister for works, housing, and fiscal planning. Worked under Kenneth Matiba. In fact, I keep on telling Kenyans, when my first son, Ken, was born, was Matiba's assistant minister. He went all the way to the UK and came with a baby cot for that young man. And the late Authoritative also replaced Matiba as Minister for Works, Housing. And from there, then I became Deputy Speaker for a full 5 years. A full 5 years. Now, if you begin to count, I think I'm going to get a professional, somebody to write my CV. Becomes difficult. And people just get lost. Oh, he's been minister for ministers. No, it's true. It's not true. It's more. So, including the environment. So when we talk about, for example, the challenge of the ozone layer, climate change, these are things we think we are schooled in properly. But having said that, do you hear these days anybody calling me watermelon? I haven't heard lately.
You seem to have shaken off.
I think people now know who the real watermelons are. Because in this thing, my friend, you don't keep on saying you want political debts settled. I keep on saying, no, please, it's the Kenyan people who will either elect you or reject you. And I think now, sometimes it takes a man. I once read a book again in my Form 6. I was a very good student of literature. That's why it made me go study law and other things. By Arthur Ibsen. The title of that book was The Strongest Man. One other thing. The strongest man in the world is he who stands alone. There are times when you have to stand alone for principle and for the love of your mother country. This is such a time. So the other day I called Raila to wish him Merry Christmas. Okay? And he had seen the Standard headline. The last man standing. So one would draw my attention to it.
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm the last man standing. I'm standing with the Kenyans. Kenyans are standing for something. For something. They want their country back. They don't want the culture of political lies to become a part of the Kenyan psyche. And I'm with them.
So as we finalize, I remember when you first stood for presidential position during the 2007 election, you were keen on saying Kibaki on this side, Raila on this side, Wona Peter katikati.
So they did, by the way.
That's a story for another day.
By the way?
I don't want to disclose that information here.
Yeah, okay.
So let's talk about appealing to the Gen Z voters, because we're dealing with a population that is quite informed, knows what it wants, and is keen on getting what it wants. On the other hand, we definitely have the older generation, and perhaps you could speak to the symbolism of the Akamba community being welcomed to the Gema Association, which might speak to that older generation. How do you balance these generations in Kenya in order to be perceived as the most electable candidate?
First of all, the Gen Z's position. These young people have a right to get their national identity cards unimpeded as soon as they finish Form 4, whatever, not to be charged exorbitant fees like now is happening. I saw a whole principal secretary even dismiss the importance of a national ID by saying it doesn't give you automatic citizenship. Kenyans are watching. Therefore, the ID is important. And then the need, by the way, you need to tell them the process of registration as voters is a continuous exercise. It's only that we now do not have a functioning IEBC. And the ones who are there, the chief executive officer there and others don't even know, can't make A from B, whatever. It's confusion. But as soon as this matter is settled, I would recommend a complete and very urgent registration of voters in order to come up with a clear list of registered Kenyan voters. And if that happens, I'm quite sure we're looking at anything between 20, 25, 26 million Kenyans eligible to vote. And I'm sure the majority of those, remember in 2022, a clear 8 million Kenyans didn't even vote. Now, if you add another 10 million young people, you're looking at very impressive numbers. This is a young nation. And therefore, I think the responsibility of the younger generation, the older generation, is to prepare this country, set it right again, because it's derailed, seriously derailed, put it back on the rail, prepare it, hand it over to the real owners, the Gen Zs. That's what it should be. And Kenyans must then, I personally like political mentoring. There are young people I've mentored, and some of them are in leadership. And I think that's the way I see it. These are the matter about regional groupings. Some of them are natural, because if you talk to the Kikuyus, they call the Kambas their cousins. They are cousins and vice versa, Avonua and all that. And they remember, for example, that that was a main consideration after the 2007 general election, when the country was on a limbo, when leaders eventually were taken to ICC, the country bled. And it was mainly the Kamba leaders who approached me as the political candidate, say, we want you to work with Kibaki. It was an order. I think that was informed by some of these considerations. However, I personally think the matter should go beyond Gema, and it should look at other communities. In fact, there's a discussion going on. The A does not represent a Kamba. Gema is Gema Cultural Association. So it can bring in other resolutions like Abagusi, because that is also A. Ambaluya, A. And others, Amijikendas.
Okay, as we finalize, Your Excellency, perhaps your message to Kenyans who will be watching this particular conversation as they go into 2025, some of the expectations might be high. Give them a dose of reality, what the Wiper Party leader will be doing as he plans for his State House bid.
Kenyans, I keep on reminding you, keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. The going at the moment is very rough. Overtaxation, no money in the pocket, don't know how even to take your students, if the ones who are qualified to go to a university education, to confusion in the education sector, all manner of confusion. But remember, God is still on the throne. Remember also that you have a responsibility to remain focused and to say no to corruption, to say no to state capture, to say no to political lies, and we will then be with you into the new year and beyond.
Thank you so much. Asante Sana. That's all we had for you. Thank you so much for your time, Your Excellency, and definitely enjoy your festivities. I'm pretty sure it'll be a busy 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Well done. Okay.